Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this month's NSLP monthly webinar. My name is Jessica Spoy. I'm one of the coordinators on the NSLP team, and I'm joined here with all of the other folks on our team. To get started, just want to go through the agenda really quickly. We're going to talk about both of the waiver request forms and some of the differences when you should opt in. Some of those operational changes that we want to make sure that you're updating consistently throughout the school year. Give a quick overview of PEBT, talk about USDA foods and some of those supply chain issues that you guys are encountering, and briefly talk about the NSLP equipment grants. While we're presenting, if you have any questions that arise, please make sure to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We're trying to keep all the questions in the Q&A box just so that it's easier for us to compile at the end of the webinar. So if you can, again, just enter those questions there and not in the chat box. If you have any issues that arise with your technology or anything like that, please feel free to use the chat. But again, just toss those questions in the Q&A box. And with that, we will go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is Jennifer Butler, and I wanted to talk about some of the waiver request forms. We have two separate forms this year. One was the school year 21-22 school meals waiver opt-in form. That was the form that we had requested that you complete, elect which meal operations you were planning to use this school year, and upload a copy of that into your renewal packet. The school year 21-22 SSO and NSLP meal pattern waiver request is a form that we need you to identify which meal pattern issues you are encountering, submit those requests for state agency review and approval, and then you'll be receiving a letter identifying which ones you were approved to utilize. The forms look similar when you are completing them, but they do have different processes and the intentions are very different. Oh, there we go. So operational changes. This goes back to that first school meals waiver opt-in form. Those forms were intended for you to identify how you plan to operate this school year. But as schools are starting to close with COVID, we're seeing that some districts maybe didn't select some of the flexibilities that they need to use to accommodate the changes that they're having to make. So make sure you edit that waiver request. And if that, you should have an email copy of that. If you don't, you can contact us and we can send you the link again so that you can edit your original waiver and get that uploaded in your renewal packet for us to look at as well. But please communicate with us if you are experiencing a school closure due to COVID so we can make sure that you have elected all the waivers that you will need and that you have a good operational plan in place. Please keep all versions of this opt-in form for your records. So that opt-in form that I'm talking about that we need you to show us your operations includes the non-congregate feeding, the meal service time, parent pickup, OVS for high school, area eligibility for after-school snack, and the monitoring requirement flexibility, allowing the SFA on-site monitoring to occur virtually rather than in person. So if you elect those forms, you'll have that proof on your opt-in form that you uploaded. But if what we're seeing is perhaps parent pickup was not elected, but now that a school building is needing to close due to COVID, and there's a plan to serve children under remote learning, they're discovering that parent pickup is necessary. So if you did not previously opt into that and have approval, please go back and edit that form to ensure that you now have all the flexibilities in place that you would need to utilize. Also want to take a second to remind about the terminology we're using under SSO. One is an open feeding and the other is closed enrolled. The vast majority of you selected closed enrolled as USDA had anticipated we would try to get back to as usual operations as normal. But those of you who are doing an open feeding site, you must serve all children in the community ages 1 to 18 who are interested in receiving a meal. The open has nothing to do with whether or not the school building is open. It is just an open community feeding for children. If you need further clarification, please reach out to us so we can ensure that you are operating as you have elected this school year. So closed enrolled is where you're only serving the children enrolled in your school. And this is whether the school building is open or whether it is closed due to COVID and children are learning remotely, or there's some kind of hybrid taking place of some in-person and virtual learning. But closed enrolled, again, is only the students that are enrolled in the school or the district. And again, many of you are doing this option, had anticipated just usual operations, but unfortunately are encountering needs to switch to a hybrid or virtual learning and need to make sure you have all the appropriate waivers in place to accommodate how you might plan to serve kids who are not attending school in person. Now, the meal pattern waiver request form is separate. USDA memo COVID response 90 granted 7 different areas that could be provide some flexibility for this school year, but each of those scenarios has to be reviewed and approved by the state agency. So when you submit the waiver, you elect which one of those 7 that you're encountering problems with. The state agency will review them, review what your plan is, and send you a letter identifying what approvals you have received. And you do need to retain that approval letter. If you are encountering additional problems, you will need to submit a new form and identify the areas that maybe you did not receive prior approval for or request approval for. We did modify the form a little bit recently just to help encourage that we want to know what factors are causing any reason that you're not being able to plan menus or provide the appropriate meal components for age grade groups. And USDA has identified that supply chain and food delivery issues are predominant throughout the country. And so we've added those elections in there so you can help identify for us which issues you're encountering. So please make sure that you're submitting a request for any of those issues that you're struggling with this year. So if you had prior approval for sodium or whole grain rich, but you are now encountering a milk issue, again, we need you to do a new waiver request. There's a hyperlink or a link on our website that you can click and complete a new meal pattern waiver request form. When you do that, make sure that you are electing any new items if you've been previously approved, or if you have not taken the time to complete that waiver approval form, please elect anything you are encountering a difficulty with. I'm going to pass it on to Jessica Spoya to talk about PEBT.
All right, so in our last webinar, I know we briefly discussed PEBT and that we are going forward with summer PEBT, school year 21-22 PEBT, more details to come on that in the future. But one of the things I really want to address is regarding free and reduced applications. Last year, benefits were allowed to be issued retroactively. So if you had a parent fill out a free and reduced application May 15th, they would then receive benefits from before that date in the school year due to school closures or virtual learning environment. The big change this year that may cause some concern, especially among parents, is that there are no retroactive benefits this year. So in this example, let's say your school closed from September 10th to the 24th, and Mary's family did not submit a free and reduced application until September 28th. She was determined eligible for free meals. but Mary is not eligible to receive PEBT benefits for the closure between September 10th and 24th because her application was turned in and determined after that date. So it's crucial that you understand that parents need to be notified to complete these free and reduced applications. Our fear is that word may not get out to parents, a closure will occur, applications won't come in until that time, and then those folks won't be eligible for benefits. So it really behooves you and the families to get those free and reduced applications in as soon as possible, even if you haven't had a school closure yet, because you're being proactive. If a closure does happen, those families are taken care of. And I'm going to pass it over to TJ for USDA Foods.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and everybody else in the room. It's nice to speak with you this morning. We do have a lot going on with USDA Foods, so let's just cover some of the positives that we have. While we don't have a lot of product left on the exchange, it's really moved quickly, and I'm sure that's because, you know, folks are realizing they need additional products. There are some items available, and I just wanted to cover those quickly. So we have diced tomatoes, shredded cheddar cheese, egg patties, eggs, garbanzo beans, green beans, mozzarella cheese, oats, peanut butter, peas, and vegetable oil. Please make sure that when you go to the exchange, if you're looking for product, check all the various tabs. There are a few items still left on bonus tab, meaning you would receive those without any impact to entitlement. Those products are carryover items from the previous school year. Check the surrender tab, because those are folks that have decided they can't use product that they requisitioned and they'd like to share it with a friend. So check that tab. Make sure you also check the sweeps tab. That is the tab that represents our further processed available raw bulk material pounds. And we still have quite a bit in the state agency account. Apples for applesauce cups. We have raw peanuts that would be used to produce those Smucker's peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We have liquid eggs from Cargill's so that you could get scrambled egg products. Particularly when it comes to Cargill, we used to have access to the French toast, but we have since learned that one of Cargill's production line pauses is for all French toast. So unfortunately, we won't have that product available for the short term, is what we're being told. They anticipate the production to increase hopefully by the end of the school year, or I'm sorry, by the end of this year, December. We also have dark meat chicken available from Tyson for drumsticks and breaded dark meat chunks. Unfortunately, we are out of white chicken, so we only have dark meat products available. We do have beef available for steak burgers, and we have pork available for sausage patties. So if any of those products are beneficial to you, please make sure you go to the exchange and look for those. The other thing that we're asking is if you will please pay particular attention to running your requisition status reports in WebSCM and know what you have ordered, what you anticipate arriving, so that you can plan accordingly. If you have requisitioned product that you now anticipate not being able to use because maybe you had to change your meal models, please be proactive and make that product available on the surrender tab. And how you do that is by downloading the surrender template that you will find on the USDA Foods and Processing webpage and submit that template to the USDA Foods team email. Then we will get product posted. Keep in mind that you can only surrender product that is one, currently at the state contracted warehouse, so you haven't asked for it to be delivered to your location yet. It's either at Americold or Northwest Distribution, depending on what type of product it is. Or If it hasn't actually been delivered yet to the warehouse, but let's say you ordered 60 cases of green beans that are scheduled to be delivered October 15th, and there's just no way you're going to use all 60 of those cases, you can go ahead and complete that surrender template, send it to us, and we'll make sure that it's posted so others can then claim it with an anticipation of being able to use those green beans for you. Keep in mind that we will and are still enforcing the 60-day dwell time. So if you have products that have arrived at the warehouse and you have not drawn them down, you need to do so. So if you can't use it, then you'll want to surrender it. The 60-day dwell time is only pertinent to direct delivered products. So we're talking number 10 cans of products. We are not talking about your further processed items that you use your raw material banks. Those further processed items are ordered on an as needed or just in time. So you do not have to surrender, nor can you surrender your further processed items. So hopefully that helps everyone understand that particular process. And then the last thing we really wanted to talk to you guys about is we know there is a lot of movement right now with changes, to sort of reference back to what Jen talked about, that meal pattern flexibility opt-in opportunity. We know that there are changes in menus happening fairly frequently, to some degree, almost weekly, because products are being ordered, but then your delivery shows up and you're shorted, or you're informed that the product that you anticipated receiving wasn't even available. We've heard some interesting information about potential breaded products not being available. So what we're asking you to do is just really be prepared to pivot. Don't panic about anything. If you need assistance, we're here for you, reach out. But some of the things that will make this particular point in time easier is to remember that you guys are a team at large. It's not one school district facing issues, it's all of you. So if you can work together with your co-ops and your local schools to maybe share menus, if you shared a menu for a given period of time and you had excess product, maybe another school just down the road doesn't have enough product to meet their menu. Just think outside the box and see what we can do to get through the initial pressure points of the supply chain issue. The most important thing is to keep the lines of communication open. Every single stakeholder. If there's an issue that's happening with delivery from potentially Americold or Northwest distribution, make sure that we at the state agency are familiar with what's happening, because it was only through a form of communication that I learned about a product problem, then made Northwest aware of it. They went to the manufacturer and we learned what the elongated issue might be. So we really all need to be on the same page about communicating. At this point, I'd rather receive too much communication than not enough, because we can't solve problems if we're not working together on it. And then finally, just a recommendation, make sure you have all your oars in the water. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you've only got 1 oar in the water, you're going to be spinning in circles. But you have access to USDA foods through a multitude of avenues. So make sure that you're using all of your available USDA foods in conjunction with your commercially procured products. And don't forget about your DoD. If you allocated funds to DoD, be really communicative and make sure that you're finding out what products are available in the catalog. Maybe you need additional products to be available in the catalog. You can make that happen if you communicate with our DLA representative. That's Tessie Vez. I'm sure anybody that uses DoD is fully aware of how ready she is to service us. So really just use all of the resources available to you, and we will get through this together. We are available at the USDA Foods team at sde.idaho.gov email address. Keep us informed. We're happy to help. And so with that, I'll now turn it back over to the team at SDE.
Good morning, this is Sean Charters. I just wanted to remind everybody that the NSLP equipment grant applications are due next Friday, October 8th. If you need another copy of the application, there's a link there on the site. You can also give me a call or email me at any time, and I can go over any questions that you have. I'll turn it back over to Jessica now.
All right, we will go ahead and review the questions that are being submitted through the Q&A box. Let's see. So the first one says, do we need to send the updated meal pattern waiver in an email or as an attachment to the NSLP application?
This is Jennifer, and I'll go ahead and respond to that. So if you need to update your meal pattern waiver, no, you can just keep that email for your records to know what you sent in as a request to the state agency, but we will be sending you a letter identifying which waivers you've been approved to utilize. Now, I will say we are doing the best we can to approve any of those. We understand the needs out there and we're here to support you. But some of the responses is what is limiting us from approving that. So make sure that when you answer the reasons for those waivers, you're giving us understandable reasons. But student preference is not a reason for one of those flexibilities. This is really driven more by food shortages, outages, or what delivery issues you're having, or that industry is not making the product. But we are generally approving those. It's just there's a few that we've not been able to approve, but that's where you need to wait for our letter and keep that record as well to know what your approval is. But in the meantime, we want you to just keep feeding the kids and know that you have our support. But I will go into the second question was related to how long it will take to get those approvals. Currently, we're looking at roughly a 2-week turnaround. And that's where I want you to know that you've submitted the request. We do have it. We're doing our best to get to it and get a response back out to you. But again, you have our support to do what you need to do, but we do want to get that written approval documentation as soon as we can. But there is a bit of a delay there.
All right, so the next question is, can we get the same meal pattern waivers for CCFP that we have access to in SSO?
And this is Kim with the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and we have different flexibilities that were waived in CCFP than in SSO. And so those flexibilities and that waiver form has been emailed out to all CSAP sponsors, but we can send it out again as a reminder of what those flexibilities are and provide you with the waiver form.
Next question is, will this be recorded? Yes, it is currently being recorded. I will get the recording. We'll have it posted on our YouTube, and we will send out a broadcast email when the recording is available. On TEBT, do we need applications from families if we are a CEP school? Great question, and no, you do not need applications if they are attending a CEP school or if you're a Provision 2 school that serves both breakfast and lunch for free. I just filled out the newest waiver response number 100. Do I need to go in and submit a new meal pattern waiver? You mentioned no. So what Jennifer was referring to earlier is We did send out a link, a direct link to the meal pattern waiver request form via broadcast email. But if you don't have access to that email that was previously sent, you can always go to our website, and there's actually a tile on the website that will also lead you to the waiver request form. So it's the same document, same link, just two different ways of accessing it. If schools must use their croutons as a grain instead of breadsticks or garlic rounds, they must serve 1.6 ounce or 44 grams of croutons on each salad to get a 2 ounce grain equivalent. They do need to be sure that they are from a whole grain rich bread.
I'm going to try to jump in there. Yes, we need to.
It wasn't meant to be posted.
Oh,
Sorry. She
just kidding.
ordered it.
Should I answer it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're going to answer that. Yes, definitely you need to try for whole grain rich. If you cannot, then you need to submit a waiver for whole, that you're saying that you're having difficulty with whole grain rich, so we can approve that waiver. But if you're talking about portion sizes and struggling with that, then that comes down to the meal pattern and age grade group menu planning issue, which is also a flexibility that you need to receive approval for. And so consider all those factors when you submit that waiver opt-in form for meal pattern.
As far as administrative review goes, everything is still moving forward in full force, correct? Will the supply chain issues not dictate any changes?
Everything is in full force when it comes to administrative reviews. So as far as supply chain issues, that ties back to meal pattern waiver requests. So please make sure you have completed a meal pattern waiver request identifying all the issues that you are encountering so that you can receive approval and maintain that documentation. Keep that documentation on file for the next 3 years. Even if you aren't having an administrative review this year, that documentation may be critical next year.
If we opted no on virtual school meal service and these students are brought into one of our buildings for PSAT testing during normal operating days, since they must come to school to take the test, are they allowed to have meals at the school during the testing day? Yeah, if the students are going to be on campus during meal service, they're absolutely allowed to be served meals. Our district has seen the CACFP flexibilities, and these do not meet all of our needs. Do you foresee more coming through, like smaller veggie or fruit portions, allowance for grain-based dessert to use our inventory, allowing yogurt with sugar, as we are having a hard time getting it?
And this is Kim again with the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and we have not received additional guidance from USDA on additional flexibility for the specific ones that were mentioned with grain-based desserts and sugar limits, and then smaller portions. So we were not included in the last, CACP was not included in the last waivers that came out, but we're hoping that something will come out from USDA, but we do not have guidance, additional guidance at this time.
With PEBT, when are the benefits effective, the turn-in date or the date they are determined to be eligible? That depends on your process. So ideally, every application that comes in, your front office or whomever is collecting the application is stamping it the day that they receive it. So if there is a date stamp of when the application was turned in and the child is deemed eligible for free or reduced benefits, the eligibility date goes back to the date that it was turned in. If you do not have that date available, or for some reason a date stamp wasn't provided, then you have to go off of the date that the eligibility determination is made. So hopefully folks are date stamping those applications because it can make a huge difference in the benefits that parents receive. So we did not receive any free or reduced applications this year due to meals being free. We notify the families to now submit one, and how does this affect the verification process? Also, we weren't approved for PEBT since we never closed. Do we still need to do this? So that's a great question. Again, this is a local control decision. Unfortunately, none of us know what the future holds. So even though you didn't close last year, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't close this year. So again, it's completely up to you whether or not you want to notify your parents and have them submit free and reduced price applications. If you do receive even just one application, you do have to do the verification process. And all of the other benefit issuance certification processes apply. So, you know, you have 10 operating days in order to determine the application. You have to send out letters notifying them of how their application was determined. You're still, regardless if you're accepting applications, you should still be running direct certification lists and sending those letters out. So again, should you notify parents to submit one now? Completely up to you. If you don't think you're going to close, you do whatever you feel is right for your operation. But you know, with all these different variants out there, we have schools closing this year that didn't close last year. So it's impossible for us to know whether or not you think it would be beneficial or not to your families. To clarify on PEBT, we are not currently accepting applications because of SSO, but it sounds like it would be a good idea to start accepting them in case we close. I thought it was going to be based on school year 2021 applications, but if they did not have a free or reduced status in 2021, they need an application for this year. That is accurate. So if you have a student who did not submit an application for this school year, but was deemed free or reduced eligible from school year 20-21, you can use that eligibility from last year to allow them to receive PEBT benefits for this school year. If a family does not have an application on file, nor were they directly certified, that is when they will want to complete a new application for this school year, and their benefits will be determined based on the date that their eligibility was determined or the application was turned in. Just to clarify, you do not require approval requests on a case-by-case basis with products if we receive the waiver, such as a one-time issue with receiving whole grain rich dinner rolls. That is accurate. If you opt in and you say that you're having issues procuring low sodium items or whole grain rich items, once you have that approval, and it states this in your approval letter, so this is also why you want to make sure you keep this documentation, it is good for the school year. So you don't have to, every time you run into an issue, keep reapplying for waivers. Once you have approval for one category, then you're good for the rest of the school year. Verification on applications received before October 1st need to be conducted, not after October 1st, correct?
You need the count of how many applications are on file as of October 1st, but then you follow the process of verification timeline after that date.
So another question asking if free and reduced applications are required. Again, a local decision. It's completely up to you and your administration. I would encourage you to notify your administration of the changes in PEBT's protocols this year, making sure that they're aware that there are no retroactive benefits and see how they'd like you to move forward. But again, the state agency, it's not required from our end. Is the PowerPoint presentation available as a document somewhere? We can certainly attach it as a PDF document when we send the broadcast email out. One district in our co-op got a letter that their review was going to be virtual. Is this going to be for everyone now that we are getting reviews in November? So no. Some of the folks on our team have requested to complete the reviews virtually, and some are able to conduct the reviews in person. Your lead reviewer is the one who should be in contact with you should a change in your in-person review be necessary. But if you haven't received notification at this time, then please just know, move forward as usual, that your reviews are continuing to be in person. And vice versa, if for some reason your school closes or your review needs to be done virtually for that reason, please notify your lead reviewer so then we can make those changes to accommodate their travel needs. Okay, so for right now, it looks like those are all the questions. Just kidding, one came in. Okay. PEBT benefits are only available to families that qualify for free reduced that have experienced a school closure, correct? No other reason. I thought I read something about summer benefits. So that is accurate for school year 21-22 benefits. For summer benefits, school closure is not part of the eligibility criteria. They just need to qualify for free or reduced price meals, and they'll receive that one-time benefit. So for summer, if they're eligible for free or reduced price benefits prior to the first day of school for school year 21-22, then they can receive summer PEBT benefits. It is not tied to any school closures whatsoever. For school year 21-22, those benefits are tied to a school closure that took place and lasted longer than 5 consecutive school days. And the students have to be eligible for free reduced price meals in order to receive those benefits. Last call for questions. And 2 more just came in. You guys are awesome. Okay. Do they get the summer benefit if we do not operate a summer feeding program? Yes, they do. If PEBT uses 20-21 lunch applications, should those applications remain active in the 21-22 school year? I mean, I would hope that you aren't using a benefit issuance list at this time, since all of your students are eating for free. But you would want to have record of which students have a school year 20-21 application on file and which don't. That way, you know, in submitting for PEBT, it's easier for you to know what students qualify under what school year and what they were determined as. Now, let's say somebody qualified last school year, they were turning a new application for this school year. You're going to go off of whatever the most recent determination made is. So again, you just need to know what application students have on file, whether it's from last year or this year, and keep track of it that way. Is the term first day of school for summer PEBT our first day of school specifically, or October 1st? The first day of school is for for an individual school. So let's say one school district, Disney School District, they had their first day of school for all their schools on September 6th. But then Toontown School District started August 23rd. So you're going to have various start dates and various deadlines because it's all based on the individual school's first day of school. Do our direct certification students get PEBT without having an application on file? Absolutely. With direct certification, you know, ideally come July 1st each year, you're running that DC list. So then you know what students get a DC letter, and you're notifying them that there's no need for them to fill out a free and reduced application. So, so long as your school meets the other eligibility criteria for PEBT, being closed for 5 consecutive school days, then yes, those direct certification students would receive the benefit. Since we have not received any applications for this year, should we begin collecting them now so that families can qualify for the PEBT summer benefits? Summer benefits, again, are they only qualify if they were determined during school year 20-21 prior to the first day of school starting this year. So There is no way for parents to now qualify for summer PEBT because all of you have already started school. So again, if your students turned in an application during school year 20-21 and they were determined as free or reduced price during the school year, they would then qualify for summer PEBT. If you had applications turned in, let's say during school registration, and they were determined prior to the first day of school as free or reduced price, they would also be eligible for summer PEBT benefits because they were determined free or reduced prior to the first day of school starting. I know it's very confusing, but as long as they were determined free or reduced price prior to the first day of school starting this year, they qualify regardless if the application serves school year 20-21 or school year 21-22. That deadline is the first day of school. In a CEP school, when we run the DC report, do we still need to send a DC letter? No, you're fine. If you're a CEP school, everyone is getting the same benefit, so you're fine. Do we upload? Oh, wait, going back to that really quickly though, but you should still, there are advertising requirements for CEP that you're notifying all the families that the students are receiving free meals. So in lieu of sending individual letters, you're expected to advertise. Sorry, getting off my CEP high horse, okay. Do we upload the summer EBT list now? I believe more information regarding summer EBT list is coming. They are working on the process, so stay tuned for that. It will be sent out via broadcast email. Ooh, yay, perfect. Thank you. I finally get it. Good. I'm glad I'm making sense to someone because when I say it aloud, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay, our district notified parents regarding applications and has been accepting applications since July 1st. All families with a 20-21 application were notified that those carryover benefits would expire on October 1st. Do they still qualify if they do not submit another application for school year 21-22? Yes, they are fine.
However, Jessica, I'd like to circle back around to that October 1st. Certainly hoping that October 1st was a defined 30 days. October 1st is not just a line in the sand for carryover benefits. And we want to be really clear about that. 30-day carryover benefits are based on the 30 operating days from the first day of school. So just be really clear that there was not a miscommunication for that October 1st day.
Thank you for that clarification, TJ. Does the state get that information from the IC report? If you're referring to PEBT benefits, no, they're getting the information from districts directly. So again, that's why it's so crucial. I know, you guys, that we bombard you sometimes with so many broadcast emails, and you know, a lot of times we contemplate, should we send this out via broadcast email, because we know how often we do it, but we need to get that critical information out to you guys. And it is so important that you get those emails and you read it word for word, because unfortunately, especially with PEBT, we don't want you to miss certain deadlines and then not have students and families receive benefits because an important email was missed. So again, that information all comes from you guys. And I know it's a big burden, but what if students are determined DC after the first day of school? They qualify for summer PEBT? That is correct. They would not qualify. But again, if you ran your DC list July 1st when the new school year started and they came up as free, then those students would qualify. But anything that comes after that first day of school starting, they don't qualify for summer PEBT. Do we need to upload the school year 21-22 meal pattern waiver to My Idaho CMP? No, you do not. For renewal purposes and beyond, I suppose, just so we're up to date on your operational changes, we only need you to submit a copy of your school meal operational waiver selection. So that would be the non-congregate feeding, parent pickup, meal service time, flexibilities. For the meal pattern, you don't need to upload that. Obviously, you do need to retain that for your records. All right, that was all the questions. I'm gonna wait though. You guys have been awesome for submitting all these questions. And here's another one. Okay, just to clarify, if patrons have a carryover eligibility from school year 20-21, they would qualify for the 21-22 school year PEBT benefits, even if they do not reapply for the school year 21-22 school year by the 30-day carryover benefit. Yes, you are correct. Susie was free during school year 20-21. We're now in the next school year. Their family hasn't submitted another application. That is okay. You can use her benefit that was determined from last year. Any other pressing questions? What if a student transfers into your district? How do we verify if they were free or reduced from last year? Yeah, I would just reach out to the student's former district and contact their food service director and see if you can get that information. If not, I would obviously, if they're transferring, it would be their first day at that new school. So I would have them, if the other food service director doesn't have that information readily available, then I would have the student fill out a new free and reduced application as soon as they arrive at your school. Just so if a school closure happens, that student is all set to go. Oh, just answered the wrong one. If there's a closure due to COVID, our district, wait, if there's a closure due to COVID, are we required to provide meals during that closure, or is it a district decision? It is a district decision. You are not required to feed the students while the school buildings are closed. Completely up to you guys. You know, and it's definitely something you want to consider, and again, have another conversation with your administration, because do you have the infrastructure to do so? Do you have the food? Do you have the staff? Preparing grab-and-go meals is a completely different beast than serving your students on campus. So again, a lot of logistical things to consider, but it is completely up to you guys. Any more questions? Maybe I should stop asking that, because then more questions. I'm just kidding. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm just kidding, you guys. Please keep asking as many questions as you want. We're here for you. If you have a closure and offer meals, are the families eligible for PEBT? Yes, they are. That was an easy one. Because serving the meals during a closure is not an eligibility criteria. The school building needs to be closed for 5 consecutive school days or longer. Any other questions? And thank you guys so much for submitting your questions in the Q&A box. It really helps us out so that we can just run a report, pull these questions. We're planning on compiling these questions as well as the questions from the previous webinar that we held, creating a Q&A document and posting those responses up on our website. Again, we really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. We know that there's so much information being thrown at you. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to any of us. We are here to help. And there's another question, let's see. If our district adopted the hybrid schedule from COVID, does this count as reduced hours like it did before when calculating PEBT? Yes, it does. Okay, folks, with that, I think we are good to go. We're going to go ahead and end this webinar. Again, thank you so much for everything you guys do. We appreciate you joining us today, and this recording should be available soon. Thank you so much, everyone.